This is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology Council. Thank you for joining us for this weekly podcast, Innovation Matters. We are feeling the impact of COVID-19 on our schools throughout Idaho, from the Mountain West Conference was postponing fall sports, no Boise State football, to decisions about classroom instruction versus online independent studies. We all know that the importance of the talent pipeline and how the community colleges feed into Idaho businesses and our professional ecosystem. The opportunity to visit with community colleges, presidents, and staff throughout Idaho has been one of the biggest privileges I've been able to have as the president of the Idaho Technology Council. And I can tell you that the community colleges are some of the gems that allow us to connect our communities and to build up talent in the state and to help us work on an innovative workforce. So it's my privilege today that we get to have all four of the community colleges represented here, and we get to talk about community colleges in Idaho and how important they are. So welcome, first Todd Schwarz, College of Southern Idaho Executive Vice President and Chief Academic Officer. Also, we have Rick Aman, the President of College of Eastern Idaho, Bert Glandon, College of Western Idaho, and its president, and also Rick MacLennan, President of North Idaho College. So thanks, gentlemen, for participating on Innovation Matters today. So let's start this off. One of the things that we always like here is, I always like, if Bert, let's start with you. Talk about the unique advantages that Idaho community colleges offer students in Idaho.
Well, first of all, I think all community colleges, we're open access. We take anybody and everybody that comes to our front door, and we do everything we can to make them better, more highly educated and better citizens. We have a community base. Each one of the community colleges is based within their community and has a locally elected board. Therefore, we're focused internally to our local businesses and industry. I think the great thing about the community colleges in Idaho right now is that for the last 5 years, 6 years, the presidents have been meeting, the four community college presidents have been meeting on a regular basis about how not only to serve our local communities and our local students, but also how we collaborate at a state level and provide a state delivery system, like we're looking at the cybersecurity as a statewide delivery, how all four community colleges can coalesce and coordinate that kind of effort. But the real community college asset is that, one, it's affordable access to higher education on all levels. And we take any and all students coming down the road. I think you're going to find when you have this conversation with our presidents here today, we not only meet regularly, we've been actually meeting once a month and sometimes twice a month. COVID-19 has provided us with more meetings, not face-to-face, but in order to coordinate our activities and efforts. But the community college system in Idaho is really one that's collaborative and coordinated to help serve not just their local community, but also the state of Idaho, and have a common delivery system, both in technology and in academics and in career and technical programs. Well, I can go on for days, so you need to cut me off sooner or later.
I'm jumping in right. Thank you very much. Bert, I got to tell you that's probably one of I really like the cohesive nature that's taking place with our community colleges, because I think that's a real advantage for us, because the presidents and the optimization, you guys always get together and talk about things, the best ways to approach things. So maybe we can just take a quick pivot, because I really like this idea of cybersecurity, because it's really big for the future of Idaho students and also Idaho companies. So it might be good. Let's Rick from the East, talk about this cybersecurity plan that's taking place with all the community colleges.
Well, when you go after Bert, he pulls all the low-hanging fruit off the tree. So for the other three of us, there isn't much left. But if we want to delve into cybersecurity for a second, obviously in Idaho Falls with College of Eastern Idaho, we can hit Idaho National Lab with a rock. And of course, they have a significant national infrastructure mission in cybersecurity, and two significant buildings that came online within the last year. So for all four of us, and I'll actually include LCSC in this discussion, these being able to quickly train technicians. Now, again, we're not talking about baccalaureate, master's, PhD, or research, but just those individuals who can be trained quickly into a family wage job with a career that has a significant future to it. Cybersecurity becomes exceedingly important. So all four of us on the call, it looks like we're going to be able to create a secure operations center in each of our institutions and be able to connect that through Idaho Regional Optical Network and a connection into Idaho National Lab. So what we're doing in each of our regions, as Bert had highlighted, is to be able to turn out technicians, whether it's for banking or manufacturing or for the lab, be able to turn out a great entry-level technician and do it inexpensively and give them a great potential to move forward in a career.
Rick, do you do that through certifications, or are you doing it also? How do you tie into that?
You know, that's a great question, Jay. And in fact, we do it in a couple of different ways. One thing we do is an Associate of Science. That's a first 2 years of a baccalaureate. Transfer a student to a university, they complete their baccalaureate. The second is an Associate of Applied Science, 2 years to a job. And then the third is pure workforce training. And within that would be the CompTIA kinds of exams, Security Plus, Network Plus, all of those, I believe all four of us are doing. So skills-based, industry-recognized certifications become a really important element in this area of cyber.
That is so exciting because we're going to be working a lot and pushing a lot of what you're doing out through an organization that we've started. It's called Idaho Codes. And
right.
So we'll want to work very closely with you on that because we love both of those. So let's jump up to Rick of the North. This will be great. Rick, talk a little bit about, because I think that what I've been watching, all of the community colleges now this fall, you're going to go live face-to-face with having students come back to the classroom as well as virtual hybrids. Talk a little bit about that, will you?
So I think I'm pretty sure we're all in a very similar space as Bert mentioned. We've been meeting quite a bit. In fact, at one point we were meeting weekly as we got into COVID-19 just to get on, share resources and ideas and some of the challenges of the problem solving around that. And as we began planning for the fall semester, back in May and even June, the world looked a lot different than it looks today. We were all hoping, I know we were all hoping that our community's experience with COVID-19 would be on a different trajectory than it is now. And so we began making plans to have a hybrid version of what we do. And to put it concisely, it's giving control to students about how they want to experience us. If students want to experience us online, we have virtually everything, almost everything we do can be accessed in an online format. Hybrid, high flex, we've probably got about 12 or 13 different instructional models, depending on what's going to work best for both the instructional delivery and then also the access to students and how they want to access us. So we're going to have combinations of on the ground, face-to-face, some face-to-face, some online, and some completely online. And what we learned, all of us learned, Bert mentioned that we take everyone. Our open access mission is one of the cornerstones of the purpose of a community college in terms of making higher education accessible to people who would not otherwise have access to higher education. What we learned as COVID-19 hit, time and place does matter. There's been a lot of pressure to move to an online education format in higher education generally. And that's important, and we need to continue to work on strengthening the support for students in that kind of a learning environment. What we learned that when we pushed everything into a totally virtual format in the spring is that many of our students went completely dark. They need to be in the place at the time we hold our face-to-face instruction in order to have the best chance of being successful. The one-on-one communication that they get with academic advisors, counselors, faculty members, We had a student walking across campus yesterday, and she looked like a deer in the headlight. And she said, "This campus is so large." Well, if you've been to North Idaho College, it's a beautiful campus, but it would not be defined as one of the larger institutions in the country. But she really needed somebody to help her maneuver her way through the enrollment process and to get her pointed in the direction of those services that are going to help support her. So one of our principles around access as we look at COVID-19 and our response in the fall for COVID-19 is, we need to put all the safety protocols we can in place, and we have. I think we're all really good examples of that with all the known things that you can do to operate safely. But we also know that the access part of our mission is critical to our community, and there's a balance between all of that, and I think we're all doing a good job. We'll know in a couple of weeks how this is all working, but we're intending to serve our communities.
Well, and Rick, that was kind of fun because North Idaho College was started right during the Depression. And so if you think about all of the work that's taken place to be able to help employ a skilled workforce and all the things that you've been able to do at North Idaho College. But
we just celebrated our 87th birthday on August 10th.
Is that right?
Yep.
Congratulations, 87. But talk a little bit about, you have approximately just under 8,000 students has been kind of the norm, right? For how many students you have. How many of them are going to be face-to-face this coming semester? Any thoughts there?
So we're probably, when we say face-to-face, and I don't want to speak for everybody else, for North Idaho College, I'd say that we have about 70% of what we're offering in a face-to-face format. But of that 70%, most of it, about 80% of it is ready to lift up into the virtual format at the flick of a switch. So if the situation deteriorates and we get indicators that are saying, you know what, we got to go back into lockdown, remote learning, remote work, the majority of what we do, we'll lose about 20% of what we do that we won't be able to do in a virtual environment. So while much is starting face to face, most all of it is able to become remote learning very, very quickly. We learned a lot from the spring in making those transitions, and we've been working all summer. I know all of us have, in terms of, okay, so what do faculty need to make that transition quickly? How are we communicating with students right now who are in a face-to-face class so that they know that there's a possibility that we're going to go into a virtual format, and what do they need to know? What do they need to do to prepare for that? So a lot better communication, a lot better preparation to lift up into that virtual world.
And I think one of the key words here is flexibility, right? Because if you have that flexible, then you're able to make those changes. So let's bring Todd Schwarz into this. Todd, this is, and by the way, thank you so much. I know that we just have a new president that started in July. Dr. Eldine Fisher, who came in from SUNY Community College in New York.
Actually, Corning Community College in the SUNY system, yeah.
Oh, is that okay? Good. So talk a little bit about. I want to ask you a question about that, but if you just, I need the continuation with what's happening in Georgia with their school system, right? Where you just have this. Obviously, Georgia's a lot different than what's taking place in Twin Falls and all of our. In Coeur d'Alene and Nampa and Idaho Falls. But at the same time, if you watch some of the spikes that are taking place in COVID-19, the communities are having more of an impact there than it has historically in the last 5 months, right? So does that concern you, would you say, with respect to what we're seeing in Georgia and other things like that? And what contingency plans do you have?
Well, frankly, I don't pay much attention to what's happening in Georgia. I'm pretty focused on our community. And I think the presidents have alluded to that community context that we all sit in. And part of that, it's not just about the economy and what people are up about. All of our local regional school districts are all approaching this a little bit differently. And those directly impact our planning as well. We have to make plans for if school districts are shutting down significantly with regard to face-to-face. For example, that means we expect people will need to stay home with their children more, and that impacts how we have to respond to that. So there's just so many dominoes that we're having to face with. The market, in terms of what students seem to want to be doing right now, at least here, and obviously we have this regional context, is definitely a drift towards online. Towards the end of last month, about 65% of our courses and about 57% of our credits would be in a face-to-face venue. And now those numbers have dropped to 56% and less than half of our credits. And so all of that volume of instruction has moved to online, obviously. So virtually, we made commitments to our students as of August 1st that we would stick with what we told them we were going to do, and we wouldn't be moving a face-to-face class online. But any new sections that we've had to create, and it's nice that we're having to create new sections of courses as our enrollment continues to actually go up. Those have all been in the online space. I really appreciated how President MacLennan characterized what really happened and what is really happening in the, I really admire our faculty for what they've been able to accomplish. They were completely blindsided by this in the spring. To say that we just did this massive move to online isn't really what happened, frankly. Faculty really had to get extremely creative about how they were doing it. An online course typically is not delivered in a synchronous fashion, but we continued to offer most of our content in that synchronous fashion. And then to Rick's point too, regarding our face-to-face, we've got distancing protocols in place. We know that some of those students will be taking the course synchronously online and maybe back and forth to campus. It's an incredibly complicated structure that we're building, but I still have full faith in our faculty to pull it off. And I want to give students credit too. They were equally blindsided, but they stuck in there for the most part. We did have some go dark, like Rick mentioned. I was shocked when I saw our survey, our course survey questions that came back specifically related to what had happened in the spring, and we had a 96% satisfaction rate, which I think is only a point or two below normal. The students basically told us, hey, we understood what happened. We appreciated what you did for us. Just please don't ever do that again.
That's a good, well, and well, you know, you learn a lot. I know that, and Bert, this might be an interesting thing for you to talk a little bit about. I mean, if you sit there and you take a look at what you've learned from, you know, and how the delivery system is going to change. I mean, this is, I hate to use this, you guys, because they always use the term the new normal, but there's going to be some changes now in the way we deliver content and do things with respect to our community colleges, right?
Yeah, well, let me also, that's right on point. Quite frankly, COVID-19 accelerated everything. We were moving, and because of state funding, because of federal funding, because of what was going on, you saw the universities, you saw the college, and the higher education system was going through this absolutely massive transitional period. And then COVID-19 hit and absolutely accelerated it to light speed. And yes, last March, with Rick and Todd and Rick, exactly, we all were faced with the same thing in March. And we were in the middle of a cabinet meeting, March, I think 10th or whatever it was. And we had a phone call that one of the key players that does our online had been to every cabinet member in the last 2 days. And we're in the middle of a cabinet meeting, and they come in and they say, he's in the hospital now. He has COVID-19.
Oh, no.
Bam. Within 24 hours, everybody had gone remote by the end of the week. That was like on a Wednesday. By Friday, we were totally remote. And Todd absolutely is, and Rick, the faculty that galvanized around that and said, okay, a lot of our classes that are face-to-face, it takes a lot of work to move that to an online format with a shell to deliver. We've spent the entire summer with our faculty, and I'm sure Rick, Todd, you've done the same thing in your areas. I'm not really stuttering when I say Rick. There's two of them. So, but we all have really worked hard, and the faculty have galvanized around this as well to say, okay, what do we do in the next 4 or 5 months so that when we open in the fall, we are there, we're prepared, and we're ready. One of the things that in the Boise area, in the Western Treasure Valley area that we're down here, we actually had students call us up and say, how are you offering this course in the fall? And a lot of the career and technical, those formats that we have in the Micron Center with welding, diesel, the technologies areas, the healthcare, if we weren't offering it face-to-face, they weren't going to come, because they have to demonstrate skills. They have to demonstrate in front. So we have spent the entire summer, and I'm sure the other campuses have done the same thing. I know they have worked on, okay, how are we going to do this? And if in September there's another spike, or October the flu season kicks in, how are we going to pivot on 24 hours notice and still serve our students and get all the material out so that they can actually have a quality experience? A quality online program is way different than just all of a sudden moving everything to online. And I think what Rick of the North was talking about too is the fact that we did it. Was it the best? A lot of them made really good transitions, and then some of them went, wow, I've got a lot of work to make sure this is set up for the fall. And that's actually what we have 5 different delivery systems that we're going to institute starting Monday when we open school. And what we did was we had huge conversations with the faculty and said, if you're not comfortable teaching online, you want to teach face-to-face, great. If it's face-to-face, here's what we're doing. We're doing social distancing, we're doing masks, we're doing gloves. We bought plastic shields in front of the classroom and divisions for each one of the students. We put sanitation in place, and we are doing everything in compliance with the Central and the Southwest Health District to assure every safety we can for our faculty and students.
Have any of you had in the last month any COVID-19 cases on your campuses?
Yes, a couple of them. We've had about 5 that we know of, and of course it comes down to, did they actually get COVID on the campus, or was it just a really great weekend and they show up Monday with something that they didn't have the Friday before?
Yeah, Todd, Jay, I would say that, and I think all of us are taking this approach. We know that for us on August 24th, when many students return to campus, that COVID-19 is coming to campus with them. We know that's
so you have to be ready to plan and how you.
So our approach has been, okay, how do we become, I don't know, not to put a plug in for Costco, but the Costco of higher education. Our commitment is that we're not going to create an environment where COVID is being transmitted. That if it's being transmitted out in the community somewhere. It may be walking through our doors, but the environments that we're setting up are environments that keep it from being transmitted here. So we have totally a zero, I won't say zero tolerance because that's in the negative, but we have a high positive mask behavior protocol. If you want to be on campus, you're going to wear a mask. And
right.
if you don't want to wear a mask, if you don't want to wear a mask, we have a choice for you. It's in that online environment, and you can go over there and do that. And so all of these things, and it is, as Todd said, very, very complicated. And every space is unique. Not all classrooms are not created equal. And so, by limiting public events and other sorts of things, we've delayed our sports season, this year, like many conferences. All of these things we're taking is to reduce the amount of risk we're controlling the things we can control, knowing that COVID's walking through the door.
Right, but yet you're still to be able to try to, like you talked about this, Rick, how important it is to have the face-to-face learning experience and how vital that is in the education process, right? So,
well, if you think about what's going on, in the country with the economy and with the millions of people who are unemployed, and we already had a labor gap issue before the crisis. the need for growth and professional development and higher education for many people is just as vital as anything else out there. And so our commitment to access, it's a core part of our mission. It's who we are.
Thanks for that, Rick.
Jay, one other thing that I'm sure we're talking about, immediately back in March, we fogged our building that had the one case in it. And we bought 2 foggers since then. And we are actually in conversations now with a contract company that for the last 20, 25 years has done sanitation for hospitals. And they go in once a month and absolutely sanitize the buildings. So, and I know that the other colleges are talking about the same kind of situation. If there is a case, bang, we've got all kinds of protocols we take care of immediately. And within 24 hours, that building, that classrooms, whatever it is ready to go again, and we can bring students back in. And just as a point, Rick mentioned that he's postponed his sports programs. Rick of the East and I have postponed our sports programs kind of indefinitely.
Yeah, since I like this, so I will have to talk about that another time. But the idea that we would have here, though, is the safety of the student is paramount in what you guys are doing, which is awesome.
Exactly.
Todd, I have to come back to you really quick because I know I was trying to do a little sensationalism that you didn't buy into when I was talking about Georgia. So I appreciate the way you did that. But let's go in really quick and talk about what's happening with Dr. Fisher now that he's the president. And if you can talk a little bit about what the state board saw in that and what you see as some of the vision that he's going to bring to CSI.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. And I'm probably better positioned than he is to address that, given the history of the college and how long I've been here. CSI has had tremendous leadership for a lot of years. The institution's in a good place, but every once in a while, it's good to bring somebody in that can shake things up a little bit, and that's what's happening here in a really good way. And just to be perfectly clear, the state board doesn't hire the community college presidents; the locally elected trustees do that. So this was the result of a national search. He's hit the ground running. I really feel for the man, considering the circumstances that he's walking into as a new president. The pandemic aside, and I guess some of the financial difficulties we're having as a state are a direct result of that pandemic, but to walk into a circumstance like this, where at the outset we couldn't even meet with each other. Almost all of our initial interactions were precisely this way over Zoom. But I think I'm very encouraged. I think he's, like I said, he's hit the ground running. We're making some systemic changes, but also some procedural changes that really needed to happen. When he walked in the door, so to speak, the virtual door, our enrollment was down 12% from last year. And I think a lot of that was due to the uncertainty about what the fall would look like. And he's been laser focused on recruiting efforts. And as of this morning, I'm looking at the screen right here, our head count's up almost 6% and credits are up about 1.5%.
And Todd, you have almost just under 10,000 students annually.
We actually have, well, it depends on how you count students. We don't count them exactly the way President Glandon does. He's always going to have the most. But last year in our CTE and academic and dual credit, in other words, our credit courses, we actually had 13,000 students last year. What's interesting about that to me and to most people is that the percentage of those students who are dual credit students continues to go up significantly. So I think we're 58% now, almost 60% of our students are dual credit students. So they're not on our campus.
That's awesome. So thank you for that. And we're excited to see some of the things that happens through CSI and through Dr. Fisher's leadership. So that'll be good. And maybe Rick of the East. So what I really liked, Rick, is I think we're going to talk a little bit about vision right now, because that's the part that I think is the most important that community colleges have been, is they've been visionary to help connect to the community and help that innovative community foster that growth that takes place. And I liked something that you said one time. It's talked about, we're not concerned about as much as where people are right now, but we're really concerned about what they want to become. Can you talk a little bit about that, and how do community colleges play into that role?
Well, again, in this community college role, and we've alluded to it, all three of my colleagues have, we're completely open access. So if mom and dad went to college and money's no object, we don't have to worry about that kind of student. But on the other hand, all four of us deal with those students who likely are first generation, those kind of students. And we want to get them off on a good start, whether it's 2 years into a job or 2 years transfer to a university. So I think for all of us, this concept of K through career becomes really important. We sit dead center in the middle right after high school graduation. And Todd alluded to those dual credit students. We talk a lot about trying to get 12, 15 credits in a graduating senior who then would come to us. They've got almost a year under their belt as they come to CEI. We finish off that second year. They either are eligible then to go into a welding career, a nursing career, or transfer to a university. You know, as we're talking about COVID too, I've been in Oregon, and this idea of dislocated workers, and Bert and Rick have moved around a lot too. So these 2-year colleges play a really important role during. Normally, it would be if there is loss of employment, so dislocation of large companies, and these 2-year colleges are dealing with skill set. So although we issue degrees, another important component is to develop those skills, and we alluded to that at the very beginning. All of those are important concepts prior to a baccalaureate degree. They're really important to the economy, and all four of us can pivot very quickly into an industry that needs a certain skill set, either because there are massive layoffs or we're seeing a technology that's come up and we've got to move into that.
Which is really important because the speed of change with technology is going to be amplified, and so as community colleges can make those shifts, that's tremendous. Just as a side note, I went to a community college when for my freshman year at College of Eastern Utah. We got a chance to play Todd against CSI, but it was a great time, and I got to say that I had a fantastic experience because it was a smaller, more intimate feeling. But I liked that a lot for what I experienced. But what I also liked was you mentioned this fluid part that you can feel, but also the cost difference. Rick, what's the cost difference between going to like Idaho State versus going to College of Eastern Idaho?
Well, we're at 129, and let me just point out to your viewers that we're the least expensive of the 8 institutions in Idaho, and I think we would be in the ballpark of probably $350, $340 a credit. So maybe not quite a third less, certainly more than half less expensive to start off with a community college. All four of us then would permit a student to complete through their sophomore year, meaning that they would transfer with all of the credits that each of the other 4 universities would require for junior status. So what I like to say here is we're going to transfer a junior that has no debt. And literally that's very possible to do if they live at home.
And that's a big opportunity if you start going on to higher education or going to masters and further, is to be able to go without debt.
Right.
But I would here's the other part that I would like to maybe shift a little discussion. I want to find out with all 4 of you what your thoughts are here. Part of the deal that takes place is that from the Idaho Technology Council, one of the most paramount things we can do for the voice of industry is to be able to get talent, to be able to meet a talented workforce. And that's the objective I know that all 4 of your institutions have. But let me ask a question. This is the part that kind of puzzles me a little bit. as we look at higher education in the state of Idaho, it seems that we just don't have what I would say when we started 12 years ago. One of our objectives was to be able to continue to galvanize and get more support for higher education. I don't think we've accomplished that as aggressively as what I thought we would want to have accomplished. What can we do to be able to continue to grow? And I know you have vested interest, all four of you do, but what is, or how can we change, and what can industry do to be able to help continue to be able to grow the commitment that the state of Idaho should have to higher education?
Well, where do you want to start?
Yeah.
Who
Well,
wants to go?
Wait,
Well-
let me just, I just got off and I'm going to be on a chamber conference. I was with KIVI just last week, and that same question came up, Jay. And one of the things we talked about was business and industry has a huge role. When community college presidents and university presidents go to JFAC or the legislature, it's whining. I mean, it's crying and whining about how our budgets have been reduced over the years. One of the things that I thought is a real cornerstone, a real driver that business and industry, and I think IBE, Idaho Business for Education,
Yes.
the more they can get in front of the legislature and have the legislature start to understand that the higher ed budget is not an expense. The higher ed budget is actually an investment in the economy.
That's
And
good,
it-
Bert. So it's how it's perceived, how higher education is perceived, right? That's the
Correct.
one. I
Correct.
like that. And we can help with that. I think that's a good idea.
Well, and you have greater impact. Your voice, your voice that comes out of business and industry to the legislature about that, and about the skilled labor that you get, and about how it affects their local businesses and the economy directly, what the direct effect on the economy is, carries way more weight than any higher education president or dean or whatever trying to say, look, in technology, you did a phenomenal job several years ago with the STAR, I can't remember the program, you got 5 million or something for the technology STAR program.
Yeah, iGEM.
iGEM, that's what it was. And the fact of the matter was, business and industry is listened to by the legislature in a way different way than when the presidents and the deans come in and say, you know, you're killing us. We're having to cut classes. We're having to cut down resources. We're literally working on a dime. We're working on less money than we were, I believe, in 2008 for sure when I first got here. But you guys have some horsepower and some credibility that educators never will about the educational budget.
Thanks, Bert. I appreciate that. Rick of the North, what do you think?
well, you know, I think one of the things is there needs to be some recognition of the different sectors of higher education. And, you know, we're here talking about community colleges, and our missions are vastly different. Higher education isn't a monolithic enterprise. And I guess I would consider us the workhorse of economic and workforce development. We have very, a diverse mission, but we own some of this value proposition solution as well. And we pride ourselves on being nimble, on being quick to adapt, respond to community needs, business and industry needs. All of our career and technical education programs have advisory councils that come right out of from the ground of the businesses in our communities to inform us on our curriculum and how we're doing, what we're doing. But I mentioned earlier that time and place issue and the credit hour and the traditional delivery of higher education and these 2-year programs. And what industry is telling us, and I think we're starting to listen to that, is the time to degree is something we need to take a look at. Packaging incremental credentialing so that somebody doesn't have to take a 2-year bite. They can take a 2-month bite and then another 2-month bite to engage in more project, hands-on, project-based learning, experiential learning, apprenticeship, all of those things that connect what we're doing to the relevance of what our community needs it to be. That's the direction that community and technical colleges are moving today. And I don't think there's widespread recognition that this is not your father's community college. We are truly shifting the way we do what we do.
And I've been what I've been feeling very impressed about what I've seen at each one of your institutions, because they're linked in with the community, the business community, and they really make a difference. Todd, did you have anything that you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I could add a number of things, but one of the things I've noticed in terms of what Rick said about people not really understanding what a contemporary community college really looks like. When we can get people inside our buildings and walk through our CTE programs and health occupations and the nursing program, the four words I hear most often are, "I had no idea." And that's the fundamental problem. People have no idea what we have to offer. And there's differing perspectives about that. There's the business perspective, the employer perspective. I don't think they always know what we have. That's why we're so anxious to get them on our campuses. But I think for the first time in maybe ever, people are really starting to question the overall value of higher education from a consumer standpoint. I'm very, very excited about these conversations because it bodes well for community colleges and our mission, frankly. I think that the common knowledge about student debt it's out there. People understand it. Came up at a family picnic last night about some relatives and the amount of debt they had for professional positions. So there's a value question, to Rick's point. So it's encouraging to me that the state board is serious about this. They're looking at the cost of education, the cost of instruction. I think they're asking some hard questions of the universities. And like I said, I think that all bodes very well for community colleges, because I can tell you we're ready. We can do the job. We've been doing it for a long time.
I like that, Todd. I want to see Rick from the East. Do you have anything else you want to add?
Yeah, considering your audience, Jay, Bert brought up the idea of legislators and their component in post-secondary education, but let's just call this skin in the game. And there's a number of things that business and industry can do because they would be the recipient of these kinds of students. So let me just pull out a particular group of veterans, and we've talked a little bit about credit for prior learning, and I think all four of us have ways to take skill sets that already exist and be able to give credit for that or move into certifications. And the veteran community is an important area that all four of us serve. But this idea of apprenticeships, the idea of internships, we're using externships. And certainly we have at least 3 or 4 faculty who are spending the summer in business and industry. These are not theoretical faculty, but literally are in working with state-of-the-art equipment. In our case, 2 of them in cybersecurity. When they come back to their students, they literally have war stories about how this stuff really works. And we're all committed to that, to keeping our faculty on the cutting edge and being able to move. Idaho Technology Council is deeply embedded in technology, whether it's software applications. This whole concept of blockchain is important. We're in a society that is changing immensely, and you are in probably the area that changes most radically, most quickly. And those are areas we want to train students in, just because of the ability for them to go out and get great jobs. But we've got to supply a workforce.
You're right, Rick, and that supply comes in. Our goal from the Idaho Technology Council is that by the year 2025, Idaho is going to be one of the most innovative states in the union. I've got some metrics there, and then the other one, which will be one that all your institutions can help with, is that we're going to have technology will be the largest industry. But it's hard to measure that because all industries utilize technology, right? Whether it's agricultural, natural resource, whatever it might be, but technology will be the biggest industry in the state of Idaho. That being said, thank you all for your time. Do you have anything else that would be a last comment that you'd like to make? Anybody like to have anything as we go out talking about the future or anything else around our community college system?
just wish us all luck as we start up this fall semester. We're doing, you know, these missions we have are big missions, and they're important to the state of Idaho and to the communities we serve, and we need all the help we can get.
Thanks for that, Rick. I would echo that from a standpoint that first of all, thanks for you all taking time on this. And it is probably, from our standpoint and how it reaches and impacts Idaho, what you do at all your institutions is phenomenal and very vital to the long-term success of innovation in Idaho. So thank you for all you're doing. And I'll say Godspeed to what takes place this next month, 30 days to 60 days. So
Jay, thank you so much for having us on, and thank you so much for hosting this. This is really important for us, and thank you. When you have metrics and stuff, I really do appreciate the ITC sending out that kind of information, because we actually use that in our local areas. But thanks for having this format for us. I appreciate it.
thanks so much, Bert. And we will send, I'll share, we're doing the Idaho Knowledge Report, which is happening around the state, and all of you are very engaged, and so we will share that with you, and we'll look forward to probably doing this again maybe in the next 30 to 90 days. That sound good, gentlemen?
Okay, Jake, thank you.
Thanks
Thank you
so much.
All right.
We're so honored to have our guest today from the community colleges in the state of Idaho and how it impacts innovation. Next week, we have the opportunity to have Odette Bolano, the president and CEO of St. Luke's Health System, Alex Barr, Microsoft Director within Microsoft, and Bert Roberts, Managing Director of Sorensen Capital. So again, this is Jay Larson with the Idaho Technology, keeping you connected with industry and government, because in Idaho, innovation matters. Have a great day.